Zhang the divine teacher prays to dispel a plague. Marshal Hong releases demons by mistake. After 5 dynasties' turmoil and strife, the clouds dispersed and revealed the sky. Refreshing rain brought old trees new life, culture and learning once again were high. Ordinary folk in the lanes wore music drifted from mansions and towers, under the heavens all was serene. Men dozed off at noon midst gay birds and flowers. Music drifted from mansions and towers, under the heavens all was serene. Men dozed off at noon midst gay birds and flowers. This 8-lined poem was written during the reign of Emperor Shenzong of the Song dynasty by a scholar named Xiao Yaofu, also known as Master Kong Jia. From the end of the Tang and all through the 5 dynasties, times had been troubled. One short-lived dynasty had ruled after another. How true was the verse, Zhu, Li, Shi, Lu, Guo founded Liang. Tang, Jin, Han and Zhou. 15 emperors 50 years in a row, bringing hardship, tumult and woe. In time, the way of heaven took a new turn. At Jiameng, Tai Zu, the emperor of military virtue, was born. A red glow suffused the sky when this sage came into the world, and fragrance still filled the air the following morning. He was in fact the god of thunder descended to earth. Brave and magnanimous, he was superior to any emperor who had ever lived. With a staff as tall as himself he smote so hard that 400 prefectures and districts acknowledged his sovereignty. He swept the land clean and pacified the central plains. Naming his empire the Great Song, he established his court at Binliang. Tai Zu was the first of 18 Song emperors and founder of a dynasty lasting 400 years. That is why Master Xiao Yaofu said in his praise, "The clouds dispersed and revealed the sky." For the people it was indeed like seeing the sun again. At that time on Huashan, the west sacred mountain, lived a Taoist hermit named Chen Tuan. A virtuous man. He could foretell the future by the weather. One day as he was riding his donkey down the mountain towards the county town of Huayin, he heard a traveler on the path say, "Emperor Qai Shizong has surrendered his throne to Marshal Zhao in the eastern capital." Chen clapped his hands to his brow and laughed so delightedly that he fell off his donkey. "Ask the reason for his joy," he said. "The empire will be firmly settled from now on. For this is in accord with the will of heaven above, the laws of earth below, and the hearts of men between." Marshal Zhao accepted the abdication in 960 and established his regime. He ruled for 17 years and there was peace throughout the land. He was succeeded by his younger brother, Tai Zong, who ruled for 22 years. After Tai Zong came Zhen Zong, who was succeeded by Ren Zong. Emperor Ren Zong was actually a reincarnation of the barefoot immortal. When he came down and was born on earth he cried day and night without cease. The imperial court posted a proclamation, inviting any man who could cure him to come forward. Heaven was touched and sent the great star of white gold in the guise of an old man, announcing he could cure the prince's weeping. The old man took down the proclamation. The officer in charge conducted him to the palace, where the emperor directed that he be allowed to see Ren Zong in the inner apartments. The old man went in, picked up the baby, and whispered 8 words into his ear. At once the prince stopped crying. The old man disappeared in a puff of air without even revealing his name. What were the 8 words? They were these: civil and military affairs. Both have their stars. The fact was that the Jade Emperor of Heaven had dispatched 2 stars from the propitious constellation to serve the future emperor. The civil affairs star became Bao Zheng, prefect of Kaifeng and a senior member of the Dragon Diagram Academy. The military affairs star became Di Qing, the great general who led an expedition against the kingdom of Western Xia. With the help of these 2 ministers, Renzong ruled as emperor for 42 years, in the course of which he gave special names to 9 periods of his reign. During the first 9 years, or the Tian Sheng period, all went well. Grain harvests were large. The people were happy at their work. No one kept articles lost by others on the road. Doors were left unlocked at night. That was the period of the first abundance. From the beginning of the Ming-Dao period to the 3rd year of Huang Yu, another 9 years of prosperity followed. That was the period of second abundance. From the 4th year of Huang Yu to the 2nd year of Jia Yu, 9 years more, the fields continued to flourish. That was the period of the third abundance. During that time the people enjoyed great happiness. Who could have foreseen that extreme joy would give birth to sorrow? In the 3rd year of the Jia Yu period a plague struck the land. From the south to the 2 capitals, not a single hamlet escaped the contagion. The imperial court was snowed under with petitions for relief from every district and prefecture. More than half the soldiers and residents in and around the eastern capital died. Bao Zheng, counselor and prefect of Kaifeng, published the officially approved prescriptions and spent his own money on medicines in an attempt to save the people. But to no avail. The plague grew worse. All the high civil and military officials conferred that they gathered in the hall of the water clock and waited for daybreak, when court would be held, so that they could appeal to the emperor. That day, the 3rd day of the 3rd month of the 3rd year of the Jia Yu period, at the 3rd interval of the 5th watch, Emperor Renzong mounted his throne in the imperial palace. After the officials had made their obeisances, the chief of ceremonies cried, "If anyone has a petition, let him come forward. If there are none, this court will adjourn." Zhao Jie, the premier, and Wen Yanbo, his deputy, advanced and said, "The plague is raging unabated in the capital. Victims among the soldiers and the people are many. We hope your majesty, in a forgiving and benevolent spirit, will reduce prison sentences and cut taxes. And pray to heaven that the people be relieved of this affliction." The emperor at once ordered the Hanlin Academy to draw an edict proclaiming a general amnesty for all prisoners and cancelling all taxes. He also directed that every temple and monastery in the capital offer prayers for a termination of the disaster. But the plague only became worse. The emperor was very disturbed and summoned his officials for a conference. A prominent minister stepped forth and asked to be heard ahead of turn. The emperor saw that it was Fan Zhongyan, his deputy premier. Fan kowtowed, then rose and said, "The plague is decimating our soldiers and citizenry. No one is safe. In my humble opinion, if this pestilence is to be ended, your majesty should summon the divine teacher of the Taoists, who comes from a papal line dating back to Han times. Let him travel day and night and rush here to the capital and conduct a great prayer service in the imperial park. In this way the people will be saved." Emperor Renzong approved Fan's proposal. He directed the scholars of the Hanlin Academy to draw up an edict, which he signed personally, and issued a bunch of royal incense sticks. He ordered that Marshal Hong Xin go as his emissary to the Dragon and Tiger Mountain in Xinzhou Prefecture of Jiangxi Province and fetch Zhang the divine teacher. While incense burned in the imperial hall, the emperor himself placed the edict in Marshal Hong's hands and told him to set out immediately. Hong accepted the royal edict and took leave of the emperor. With the edict in a bag on his back and the incense sticks in a golden box, he mounted his horse and left the eastern capital. Leading a column of several score men, they headed directly for Guishi, a county town in Xinzhou Prefecture. After a number of days they arrived. Officials, high and low, greeted Marshal Hong. They sent word to the abbot and other Taoists in the Temple of Supreme Purity on the Dragon and Tiger Mountain to get ready to receive the imperial edict. The next day the officials accompanied Marshal Hong to the foot of the mountain. A procession of Taoists, beating drums and bells, playing saintly music, bearing incense and candles, banners and canopies, came down to receive the imperial envoy. They escorted him to the temple, where he dismounted. All of the Taoists, from the abbot to the lowliest novice, gathered round and led him to the Hall of Three Purities. They asked him to place the royal edict on an altar. "Where is the divine teacher?" Marshal Hong inquired of the abbot. "You must understand, Marshal," replied the abbot, "our teacher is known as pure serenity. He is of a very exalted nature and cannot be bothered with such mundane matters as welcoming and seeing off visitors. He has built a thatched hut on the top of the mountain, and there he meditates and cultivates his spirit. But I have an imperial edict. How can I find him? Leave the edict here in this hall. None of us will dare to unroll it. Please come into the abbey for some tea. We can talk things over there." Marshal Hong did as the abbot suggested. When he had seated himself amid his hosts in the abbey, tea and meatless dishes of many varieties were served. After the meal, the marshal said to the abbot, "You say the divine teacher is in a thatched hut on the mountain top. Why not ask him to come down and receive the royal edict?